I'm your host, Precious Berry, and today is all about one of the most important things young change makers can do: protect their peace while also doing the work for progress. My guest is Leilani Billups, a powerhouse youth advocate, writer, and public speaker who uses her voice to elevate conversations about mental health education, the future of Gen Z. She's all about philosophy, and she's already sparking big dialogue about how we care for ourselves while we fight for something bigger. So let's get into it. Hey, Leilani, how are you doing today?
I'm good.
Yeah, you're amazing. How old are you?
18 now.
18
Yeah.
years? I feel like
It
I
feels
met you
crazy
when
to
you were
say.
like, I think
I was definitely in middle school.
like
Yeah.
15.
I had to have been, like 15. I know.
And
Time flies.
every time I look up on Instagram or social media or just in the media itself or in the community, you're always just out. Yeah.
Thank you. I feel like I could say that about you more so.
Yeah. Can you just briefly just speak about just your journey and how you got into activism and mental health?
Yeah, so when I was in middle school, maybe around like 6th grade, I was diagnosed with clinical depression. And basically throughout that journey, my mom took me to see obviously psychiatrists and therapists, and from then on we started working on my mental health because it seemed to be that it was going to be a lifelong battle, that it's something that I was always going to have to deal with. But once I got to a more stable place, I realized like not everybody has that support system, whether it be their parents or their grandparents or family and friends around them to support them through mental health crises. And that's when I realized like, hey, maybe it'll be a good idea to educate young teenagers on mental health and what it means to suffer from sort of issues with your mental health, and how actually normal it is, and how most people will go through this at least once or twice in their lifetime, if not throughout their whole lifetime. So
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I know, like, for me, it didn't take to, like, COVID for me to actually understand, like, what mental health was because of my own personal experience.
It was 100% COVID was a very big impact on especially Generation Z. I was actually in 8th grade during COVID, and some people took it very well, but being isolated in a generation that's already pretty isolated because of social media and technology, just it became exacerbated by the pandemic and the quarantining. And so yeah, I think a lot of people realized like how important their mental health was during those years. Definitely.
No, I definitely agree with that. You know, when I think about mental health, I think about the stigma that is around it, you know, not just in Black households, but in all households, you know. And, like, what did it take for you to actually step outside of that stigma to actually get that avocation that you needed?
Well, my mom actually encouraged me. I'm very lucky to grow up in a household where there wasn't a lot of stigma around mental health, and it was just seen as any other health issue, because mental health is like health. But I realized like in a lot of society today, mental health still has a large taboo around it, or speaking out about it, or you're seen as sick, or you couldn't get it together, things of that nature. And so I think that's what made me realize like I want to step out of it. And also like as like teenagers, it's less of like a judgment around it, but more as a not taking it serious, right? Like we kind of like to joke or play things off when in reality there might be like serious underlying pain there. And I think Generation Z definitely is better at having conversations around mental health, but approaching it with seriousness is something that we could all work on. So
Yeah, and speaking of Generation Z, what do you think is more open about mental health than the past generations?
I mean, honestly, I think it's probably because a lot of the times mental health is a situation of life or death, you know? It's not just, oh, I don't want to get out of bed, or, I mean, for some people it can manifest in that way, but for a lot of people, like, it is like, I don't want to live this life anymore, or I don't want to see another day. And so I think when you have experiences with the gravity of that, you kind of don't have a choice but to be open and honest about it. And so we see a mental health epidemic in the country, right? And we want to sort of tackle that. And so I think with Generation Z, it's kind of like inevitable because it's put right in our faces, right? Like our families, our friends are hurting and suffering, and at a certain point you want to break that cycle. So
going back to 2020, when I think about mental health, I mentioned earlier how I didn't hear anything about it. Before that, in like middle school or elementary school, when they talked about like suicide and mental health, I was like, what is that? Like, why would someone actually do that to themselves? And so it took for like in the middle of COVID for me to actually go through my own struggles and I started to realize like everything around me, I've been putting a smile on my face, but something just doesn't feel right. And I was like, what is this feeling that I'm getting? Why am I sad? Why am I?
And sometimes it's like that. Like it's not always as extreme as like mental health education in school may portray it. So like obviously we have sort of assemblies or things like that on like, oh, like this is what suicide is. If you ever feel like hurting yourself, you call this person. Or it can be portrayed as pretty extreme, and there are those extreme cases out there, but sometimes it's just as simple as I don't feel well and I haven't been feeling well for months, or I don't feel like myself, things of that nature. It's not always sort of that extremity. And I think during COVID people were realizing like, hey, like this is taking a toll on who I am. Even though I'm not like the worst case scenario, I still have to consider like what's going on inside. That was the starting point.
Right. So then I actually reached out to my school district, Review Gardens, and I got a therapist. And I just realized, like, this is something that I wish I had, like, when I was younger, because how much it has helped me throughout just mental health and also just my emotions. And I've been in therapy for 5 years now. I go once a week. I don't play about therapy. So when you spoke about that earlier and how, we didn't take it so serious and now we are taking it serious, these are things that we should, overcome and get support with.
100%. Your mental health is kind of like a plant or a garden, right? Like that's the most common analogy for mental health. And it's not, even if your flowers look okay or they're only wilting a little bit or they're pretty hardy and strong, you still want to water them, right, and give them food and give them sunlight even when things are okay. And so I'm a strong advocate for therapy. Even if you feel like you're okay, sometimes you just need somebody to talk to, and therapy is definitely one of the biggest coping mechanisms and can give you resources that help you in your everyday life with everyday stress. It doesn't always have to be like a big traumatic event happened to you and now I must go to therapy. It can be like, oh my gosh, my job is stressing me out so much. Let me go to therapy and like talk to somebody about it, right?
I want to shift into leadership, and the work that you are doing, as a fellow leader myself, and I see you, we're always out in the community helping young people or helping just people in general with mental health or with avocation or just showing up and showing out. So what do you feel that, you are learning within yourself? Like, how do you balance that self-care? Because I think that sometimes as leaders, people portray us that we don't really go through things ourselves and that we have it all figured out and we have it all together. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people or of my peers or at school tell me I feel so put together, and every time they see me, I have it all together, and I really don't. But I think what's important is doing things outside of your leadership roles that are just for you, that have nothing to do with your career or your activism or anything like that, that are strictly just for you, whether that be listening to music, or I like to sew and embroider or read and things like that. Just any sort of hobby that can take your mind off of things, so then when you do enter the space where you are the leader and where people are relying on you, you can come as a more clear-headed version of yourself.
Yeah, and when you what are some practical ways I would say that young leaders can set those boundaries and still stay engaged in their communities?
Definitely the thing that I had to learn, that I'm still learning, is you can say no. Not every opportunity that comes your way is an opportunity you must take. I feel like, especially when we're in high school, right, we're trying to get into college and we have all these big goals, and so we feel like if we say no to an opportunity, it just looks bad on us, or we're missing out on something. It's okay to choose a few things to devote a lot of your time to. But if you choose too many things, you're going to end up stretching yourself thin, and you're not going to be bringing your best self to those responsibilities. So I would say it's okay to say no, and it's okay to set those boundaries, and it's a practice thing. You're not going to be great at saying no at first, but you have to practice it.
I feel like too, in a younger generation, when we are asked to do certain things, I've learned that we can be tokenized.
Yes.
And because you can have this event and then it's all adults, and let's get this one young person
to speak, and then
they
they clap and they're like, she's so cute.
Yes.
And then you leave.
And then you realize, you're like, who are you really benefiting in this situation?
Or do they really value what I have to say, or am I like a show pony who's just here?
And then if you say no, you're like, well, who are they going to ask now?
Exactly.
And I know that we've both been in those type of situations where we both had to like say, okay, I'll do it. And then you leave. And like for me, I know that when I left, I'm like, there weren't any young people in the crowd.
You're like the only person there.
I know. And so as I got old, like just growing in my activism, I realized that I'm needed where the young people are, versus where the adults and politicians are, because I am actually honing who I am for young people and taking up that space.
And I feel like a good indicator if of an event or of an organization really valuing what young people have to say, they're not just inviting one young person to speak, right? There's a table of us, or there's two tables of us, but I 100% understand what you're saying.
So speaking of organizations, you have an organization, right?
Yes, Genetic Genius Organization. It's been quite inactive for a while, but I'm thinking about starting it back up at WashU as a campus organization. So we'll see where that goes.
Did we just get a soft launch on that?
maybe. No promise.
Can you talk a little bit about that organization that you started?
So I started in middle school, and it was basically just an Instagram account that posted facts, resources, and everything involving mental health. We had hosted one retreat last year, and we had people come out with a licensed therapist on site just to talk about like how mental health affects them. We gave out goodie bags, things of that nature. It's basically just a small outlet in St. Louis. It's a very small community on Instagram, encouraging students to learn more about mental health and to spread awareness and to create sort of a peer support system in the area.
What mental health myths do you want to break down for young people today?
Myths? Oh my goodness, there's so many. That seeing a therapist makes you weak, or it means that there's something wrong. Like I said before, you can see a therapist and your life is okay and you're happy, but you just want somebody to talk to, and that's normal. That mental health always stems from some form of trauma. Yes, a lot of communities experience like shared trauma. There's trauma within households and things of that nature, and that should be taken very seriously. But sometimes mental health can just be a chemical imbalance in your brain that you were born with and that you can't control. And I would say that like it's taboo to talk about mental health. It's never taboo to talk about it. Obviously there are going to be spaces that are safer to talk about it than others, but it's okay to tell your friends that you're not feeling okay and things of that nature. It's okay not to be okay.
I definitely agree with that. I was talking to my friend last week, and I was like, I'm not happy. And she was like, why do you think that you have to be happy all the time? She was like, do you really know what the definition of happy is? We have these pre-notions of what happy looks like, and we try to strive every day to try to get to that feeling, when in actual reality is how you actually define happiness.
If you were happy all the time, I would be side-eyeing you more than when you're sad.
I definitely agree. How can schools and communities help better support youth within mental health resources?
Just listen to them. I think a lot of the times adults feel that they understand what students or what the youth needs more than the youth understands what they need. And so I think to like properly listen to them and hear what they're saying, instead of acting without them, act together. I think it's the most important part. And definitely with school districts, there can be a disconnect between administration and students and even teachers at times. But I would say centering youth voices in these conversations is the most important part, because we can tell you what's going on in our community. We can tell you what it's like to be us. But without that, you're just making assumptions based on what you see, and your perception isn't always reality.
Yeah. And, speaking about communities and schools, what conversations about mental health do you wish that adults were having with young people?
Definitely like sharing their experiences, but that can be hard because a lot of adults, especially older generations, have trouble reckoning with their experiences themselves. And so it comes into conflict, right? But having a conversation, especially with older teenagers, like such as ourselves, like we can have a serious conversation about it, almost adult to adult, and converse about like what mental health truly means. But without that, it kind of becomes you kind of reach a stalemate, right? And no progress is made. So just conversing, I think conversation is the most important when it comes to mental health.
So you're about to start college.
Yes,
congratulations.
Thank you.
What do you hope to build at WashU and beyond?
I just hope to build a community of radical empathy, and kindness and compassion. I hope to get into some volunteerism and activism. I plan on majoring in international relations, so hopefully I can join some organizations revolving around that. And then WashU does have a great mental health community that I would love to contribute to.
Yes, they have Uncle Joe's, they have Health. I know I've benefited from a lot of those resources.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so what does collective care look like in your generation?
I would say, to me, it looks like rallying together for a cause that will benefit your community, right? It's as simple as that. Whether it be like with the recent tornadoes that just affected our city, I've seen a lot of people come together, and it's made me very proud of St. Louis. I've seen a lot of people come together and help each other out and have each other's backs. And so, yeah, to me, collective care is just coming together for the greater good, and putting things aside for the greater good. And I definitely think Generation Z has the potential to do that.
No, of course. This next question is very interesting because I need to teach myself this. If you could tell young activists one thing about rest, what would it be?
It's okay to say no. We'll start right there. It is okay to say no. And it is okay to not be doing something all the time. It's okay.
Of course. So I like to get into my quick fire round, and I want to ask you a few quick questions. We know that you love books. You've probably read more books than I probably know a young person's ever read. Like, I'm pretty sure your room is probably filled with books.
Yes, it is.
What is your favorite book if you could pick one?
Hard question, but I'm going to say Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. He's one of my favorite authors. Yes. Brilliant mind.
Yes, I took a class where we were speaking about constructive criticism and also criticism and activism, and we brung up James Baldwin a lot because a lot of people critique his writings, and it's very interesting on different people's opinions on his writings, and he's a person that'll have you thinking a lot.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite children's book?
Favorite children's book? Oh, I haven't been a kid in forever. I don't know. I do like Frog and Toad. Do you remember that?
I feel like frogs. It's giving elementary.
Yes, it was. It's an elementary book. Yeah, I also like Harry Potter.
Harry Potter? Oh, did you watch all the series?
I did.
Yeah, mine was Chica Chica Boom Boom.
I know what you're talking about. I like that book. I think I have that book at home.
Really?
Yes.
That one and Pinkalicious. Every time the Bookmobile came.
Oh my goodness. Bookmobile, book fair. You're bringing me back right now.
Yes. Well, thank you, Leilani, for reminding us that rest and resistance go hand in hand. Thank you to everyone that is listening. Take care of your mind, as Leilani stated, and take care of your heart and keep showing up for each other, because that's how we keep the work going. So we thank you. Is there any way that people can stay connected with you?
If you want to look me up on LinkedIn, it's just under Leilani Phillips. Also, my Instagram account is Lei Thinks, Lei Thinks.
Perfect. Yes, thank you so much for coming on. You are amazing.
I'm honored.
I'm just so super proud of you. So keep continuing to do the work. We are all watching you. Keep showing up and showing out. So Yes, thank you for coming on.
Thank
Stay tuned
you.
on Beach District Radio. Say It Proud with Precious Berry. Bye, Leilani.
Bye.